Hello, dear readers. Welcome to Novel Spotlight. This is an audiobook of the novel The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Part 9, Chapter 15, Part 2. She put the cat down on the floor and headed back out. This time she noticed something she had missed on entering. A framed newspaper article from the Oxford Times with a picture of Nora and Dan standing outside the Three Horseshoes. Dan has his arm around her. He was wearing a suit and she had never seen before, and she was in a smart dress she had never had worn. She rarely wore dresses in her original life. Pub owners make dream a reality. They had, according to the article, bought the pub cheaply and in a neglected state and then renovated it with a mix of modest inheritance and savings and bank loans. The article presented a success story, though it was 2 years old. She stepped outside, wondering whether a life could really be judged from just a few minutes after midnight on a Tuesday. Or maybe that was all you needed. The wind was picking up. Standing out on that quiet village street, the gust pushed the board and a little along the path, nearly toppling it over. Before she picked it up, she felt a buzz from the phone in her pocket. She hadn't realized it was there. She pulled it out. A text from Izzy. She noticed that her wallpaper was a photo of herself and Dan somewhere hot. She unlocked the phone using facial recognition and opened the message. It was a photo of a whale rising high out of the ocean, the white spray soaking the air like a burst of champagne. It was a wonderful photo, and just seeing it caused her smile. Izzy was typing. Another message appeared. This was one of the pics I took yesterday from the boat. And another. Humpback mother. Then another photo. 2 whales this time, their backs breaking the water. With calf. The last message also includes emoji of whales and waves. Nora felt a warm glow, not just from the pictures, which were indescribably lovely, but from contact with Izzy. When Nora backed out of her wedding to Dan, Izzy has insisted that she come to Australia with her. They mapped it all out, a plan to live near Byron Bay and get jobs on one of the whale-watching boat cruises. They had shared a lot of clips of humpback whales in anticipation of this new adventure. But then Nora had wobbled and backed out. Just like she had backed out of swimming career and a band and a wedding. But unlike those other things, there hadn't even been a reason. Yes, she had started working at String Theory, and yes, she felt the need to tend to her parents' grave, but she knew that staying in Bedford was the worst option, and yet she picked it. Because of some strange predictive homesickness that festered alongside a depression that told her ultimately she didn't deserve to be happy, that she had hurt Dan, and that a life of drizzle and depression in her hometown was her punishment, and she hadn't the will or clarity or hell the energy to do anything. So, in effect, she swapped her best friend for a cat. In her actual life, she had never fallen out with Izzy. Nothing that dramatic. But after Izzy had gone to Australia, things had been faded between them until their friendship became just a vapor trail of sporadic Facebook and Instagram likes and emoji-filled birthday messages. She looked back through the text conversation between her and Izzy and realized that even though there was still 10,000 miles between them, they had much better relationship in this version of things. When she returned to the pub carrying the sign this time, Dan was nowhere to be seen. So she locked the back door and waited a while in the pub hallway, working out where the stairs were and unsure if she actually wanted to follow her tipsy sort of husband up there. She found the stairs at the rear of the building through a door that said staff only. As she stepped on the beige raffia carpet, heading towards the stairs, just after a framed poster of things you learn in the dark. one of their favorite Ryan Berry movies, which they had watched together at the Odeon in Bedford. She noted a smaller picture on a sweet little windowsill. It was their wedding photo, black and white, reportage style, walking out of church with a shower of confetti. It was difficult to see their faces properly, but they were both laughing and it was a shared laugh. And they seemed, as far as the photograph can tell you anything, to be in love. She remembered her mum talking about Dan. He's a good one. You are so lucky. Keep hold on him. She saw her brother Joe too, shaven-headed and looking genuinely happy, champagne glass in hand, and his short-lived, disastrous investment banking boyfriend, Louis, by his side. Izzy was there and Ravi too, looking more like an accountant than a drummer, standing next to the bisexual woman she had never seen before. While Dan was in the toilet, Nora located the bedroom. Although they evidently had money worries, the nervous appointment with the bank confirmed that the room was expensively furnished. Smart window blinds, a white comfortable looking bed, the duvet crisp and clean and white. There were books either side of the bed. In her actual life, she hadn't had a book by her bed for at least 6 months. She hadn't read anything for 6 months. Maybe in this life, she had a better concentration span. She picked up one of the books, Meditation for Beginners. Underneath, it was a copy of a biography of her favorite philosopher, Henry David Thoreau. There were books on Dan's bedside table too. The last book she remembered him reading had been a biography of Toulouse-Lautrec, the tiny giant. But in this life, he was reading a business book called Zero to Hero, Harnessing Success in Work, Play and Life, and the greatest edition of the Good Pub Guide. She felt different in her body, a little healthier, a little stronger, but tense. She patted her stomach and realized that in this life she worked out a bit more. Her hair felt different too. She had a heavy fringe, and feeling it, she could tell her hair was longer at the back. Her mind felt a little woozy. She must have had at least a couple of glasses of wine. A moment later, she heard the toilet flush. Then she heard gargling. It seemed to be a little bit noisier than necessary. "Are you all right?" Dan asked when he came into the bedroom. His voice, she realized, didn't sound like she remembered. It sounded emptier, a bit colder. Maybe it was tiredness. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was beer. Maybe it was marriage. Maybe it was something else. It was hard to remember exactly what he had sounded like before, what he had been like precisely. But that was the nature of memory. At university, she had done an essay rightly titled The Principle of Hobbesian Memory and Imagination. Thomas Hobbes have viewed memories and imagination as pretty much the same thing. And since discovering that she had never entirely trusted her memories. Outside the window, the street lamp's yellow glow illuminated the desolate village road. "Nora, you're acting strange. Why are you just standing in the middle of the room? Are you getting ready for bed, or are you doing some kind of standing meditation?" He laughed. He thought he was funny. He went over to the window and pulled the curtains. Then he took off his jeans and put them on the back of the chair. She stared at him and tried to feel the attraction she had once felt so deeply. It seems to require a Herculean effort. She hadn't expected this. Everyone's life could have ended up in an infinite number of ways. He collapsed heavily on the bed, a whale into the ocean, picked up Zero to Hero, tried to focus, put it down, picked up a laptop up the bed, shoved an earphone into his ear. Maybe he was going to listen a podcast. "I'm just thinking about something." She began to feel faint, as if she was only half there. She remembered Mrs. Elm talking about how disappointment in her life would bring her back to the library. It would feel, she realized, altogether too strange to climb into the same bed with a man she hadn't seen for 2 years. She noticed the time on the digital alarm clock, 12:23. Still with the earphone in his ears, he looked at her again. Right, listen, if you don't want to make babies tonight, you can just say, you know. What? I mean, I know we'll have to wait another month until you are ovulating again. We are trying for a baby? I want a baby? Nora, what's with you? Why are you strange today? She took off her shoes. I'm not. A memory came to her, related to the Jaw t-shirt. A tune actually. Beautiful Sky. The day she had bought Dan the Jaw t-shirt had been the day she had played him a song she had written for the labyrinth, Beautiful Sky. She was convinced, the best song she had ever written. And more than that, it was a happy song to reflect her optimism at the point in her life. It was a song inspired by her new life with Dan. And he had listened it with a sluggish indifference that had hurt at the time and which she would have addressed if it hadn't been his birthday. Yeah, he said, it's okay. She wondered why that memory had stayed buried, only to rise up now, like the great white shark on his fading t-shirt. There were other things coming back to her now. His over-the-top reaction when she once told him about a customer, Ash, the surgeon, an amateur guitar player who came into string theory for the occasion song book, casually asking Nora if she wanted to go for a coffee sometime. Of course I said no. Stop shouting. Worse, though, was when an A&R man for a major label wanted to sign the labyrinth. Dan had told her that it was unlikely they would survive as a couple. He also heard a horror story from one of his university friends who had been in a band that signed to a label and then the label ripped them off and they would all become unemployed alcoholics or something. I could take you with me, she said. I would get it in my contract. We could go everywhere together. Sorry, Nora, but that's your dream. It's not mine. Which hurt even more with the hindsight, knowing how much, before the wedding, she tried to make his dream of a pub in the Oxford Shrine countryside become her dream as well. Dan has always said his concern was for Nora. She'd been having panic attacks while she was in the band, especially when she got anywhere near a stage. But the concern had been at least a little manipulative. Now she thought about it. I thought he was saying now that you were starting to trust me again. Trust you? Dan, why wouldn't I trust you? You know why. Of course I know why. She lied. I just want to hear you say it. Well, since the stuff with Erin. She stared at him like he was a Rorschach ink block in which she was no clear image. Erin? The one I was speaking to tonight? Am I going to be beaten up forever about one stupid drunken moment? On the street outside, the wind was picking up, howling through the trees as if attempting a language. This was the life she had been mourning for? This was the life she had beaten herself up for not living? This was the lifetime she thought she had regretted not existing in? One stupid mistake? She echoed. Okay, 2. It was multiplying. 2? For the next part, stay tuned to Novel Spotlight. And please like, share and subscribe.